So I'm going to paint a nice picture of you. You intrepid explorer, you are lounging on the bed with a nice glass of wine from the local region. Above you is the Milky Way and the best stars that you have and probably will see. You are in a glass pod that is overlooking the entire Sacred Valley from the perspective of a Peruvian condor. Now where are you? Should you ask? You are in the SkyLodge Adventure Suites, and you either heard of this hotel and said no frickin' way, or you haven't heard of this hotel, but you are about to. Let's talk about it. So what are the SkyLodge Adventure Suites, should you ask? Now this is a very small hotel located in Peru, and when I say small, I mean it can only accommodate probably from 6 to 12 people per night. It consists of 3 pods and a dining pod that are actually anchored to the side of a mountain about 1,200 feet to 400 meters above the ground. Actual perspective of a condor. And how do you get here, should you ask? Well, it's very logical. You climb. And for all those people who did know what this was and said no frickin' way, this is probably the reason. Now you climb what's called a via ferrata, and for those of you who don't know, aka me, because I'm not an avid climber, you basically do climb the traditional way, except you have these metal handholds that will make it very easy for you. Now the coolest thing about these pods is they are all made of glass. So you get an uninhibited view of the entire Sacred Valley from a perspective that hardly anyone else has. And when I tell you that this is one of the coolest things I have ever done in my life, hands down, please believe me, this needs to be added to your bucket list right now if you can stomach it. A quick tangent, can we just talk about this poncho that I did get in Peru? I am absolutely obsessed with it, and it is an actual work of art. Thank you. So just a quick logistics of what to expect. I would definitely, this is only available if you go directly through the company or with a tour group. You can't just go there on your own. You need guides, and I don't think you'd want to do it without guides anyway. We booked directly through the company, and it was an amazing experience. They met us at our hotel in Cusco. They drove, it was about an hour and a half, I would say. Then they gave us all of our gear, they gave us a safety briefing on how to do it. I believe that there were 2 ways up. You could either climb up or you could do a zip line. My mom actually, she got about 5 minutes up the hike and said an absolute hard nope, and she actually switched to the zip line then, and she still did have to do a little bit of climbing, but I don't think it was as intense as what my best friend and my dad and I had to do. But the climb itself, I mean, I'm not a climber, and I'm not really, I mean, my arms are kind of weak, so it was definitely a challenge for me to do it, but definitely doable. I mean, those handholds make it really easy. There were definitely some times where, you know, you would look down and there would just be nothing. Like, you would just be on the side of a cliff. I mean, it's not a slope, it is vertical. There's times where you are literally climbing straight up the cliff, or even sometimes kind of slanted. It did require a lot of arm strength that I didn't have, but I still made it through. I also had some like photos being taken of me. There was one part where you kind of had to go over like a tightrope bridge kind of area. So that was really fun. Yeah, I was definitely out of my comfort zone, just physically and mentally, you know, because I'm not used to being that high. So if you're afraid of heights, probably not the best thing to do, judging from if you have the little metal handhold, right? But your feet, you look down and you can see the ground from like in between your feet. So it was definitely an interesting thing. It took probably about 2 hours. I'm sure some people who are more physically inclined could do it faster. Anyway, once you got to the top, you went to the dining car. We met back up with my mom who had taken the zip line, and you eat the best Peruvian gourmet meal ever. The guides cook it, it's right there, it's so amazing. You drink it with some wine, you watch the sun go down over the Sacred Valley. It is pure magic. And then after you're done with that, you would go to your pods, and each of the 3 pods are in separate locations, and you have to climb a different way to get to each of the pods. Of course, mine was the furthest away from the dining pod. To get into the pod, it's kind of like a submarine, like you go down through the pod, and then they have a little deck. You know, if you're gonna be on the deck, you need to have your climbing gear on, but I would 10 out of 10 recommend going back up there because it's amazing. Once you get in, you have a bed, a little couch area, a toilet, which is super weird to use. Maybe I'll make another video on how it worked because it was really weird. But yeah, the views are amazing. I believe they had another bottle of wine in there, and we literally just sat there and just talked for hours, my best friend and I. In there, we looked at the stars, we stargazed, went up on the deck. It was pure magic. And once you wake up, I mean, the beds were super comfy, by the way, because we had just been trekking for 7 days and we were sleeping on the floor in sleeping bags. So this bed was like the lap of luxury. It was the best sleep I had during the entire trip. But anyways, you wake up pretty early, you can take some pictures, then you go back to the dining car, you have the most amazing breakfast ever, and then you start your descent. Now the descent, I believe there's other options as well. And so we chose the rappelling. I believe you can zip line down if you want to, but honestly the rappelling was great, and it was traditional rappelling. I'm used to, you know, those rock climbing gyms where you just kind of, you know, go down really fast, but this one was actual rappelling, and it is way different when you're rappelling off of a cliff with bushes and shrubbery. So it was so cool. We rappelled down like 3 to 4 times before we were back on the ground, but it was so much fun, and my mom actually did that one and didn't have a problem with the heights. So 10 out of 10 recommend. And then you get back in the car and you go back to Cusco. I believe as of right now there's only an option to stay for 1 night. I knew they were making another one that had less of a climb, maybe you can stay there for more, but they were just finishing building it when we were there. And just going a little bit more in depth into that Via Ferrata system, just so you have some peace of mind if you aren't a climber, kind of like me. So you get into the entire climbing setup, the entire thing, and then you also have 2 carabiners, and these carabiners are hefty duty. And once you get to the actual climbing route, you have those little handholds that I was talking about. And then you also have a metal wire that is going into the mountain. So your carabiners, both of them attached to that metal wire, and you are hooked in there. But every 3 to 6 feet or so, the metal wire would go into kind of like an anchor point. And this would be a section. And then when you got to the next section, you would take 1 carabiner, just 1, and you would go to the next section. Once that carabiner was secured, you would take the next carabiner and then put it over to the next section. This way, if you do fall, you would only fall a couple feet. It would probably hurt a little bit, but at least you wouldn't die. And then you would go to the next section and just repeat it. And then you would just do that all the way up. It was a little hard to do it for the first 15 minutes, but after the first 15 minutes, I was completely okay, and I could actually do it without even looking. I could just 1 and then the next one, and you would do that all the way up, and you would be safe, and that's how you would climb. So as far as what to pack, I would suggest bringing layers, lots and lots and lots of layers. We were there in early August. We were there during the dry season, which is from about April to October. If you're there during the wet season, which is like November to March-ish area, I would definitely bring a raincoat. I'm not exactly sure how that would be, climbing that in the rain. Doesn't sound like a fun time to me personally, so if you are there during the dry season, that's probably when I would personally recommend going, but I'm sure it's just fine. Also, another thing with the wet season is you might get cloud cover, which is not good for stargazing. And you want to stargaze, trust me, it's amazing. So yes, I would definitely bring layers. It was chilly when we were there, but I was sweating climbing up there. But I think I was always in a jacket, and that was fine. It was nice to be able to like take off certain things. Obviously, if you are going in more of like the wet season, yeah, bring more raincoats. But overall, I would suggest just bringing a ton of layers and good shoes. Just bring good shoes. I had some hiking shoes that I had worn previously for our trek, and those did just fine, but probably I wouldn't bring flip-flops. I don't even think they'll allow you to go in flip-flops, and I wouldn't bring clunky hiking shoes, just a happy medium, and you'll be just fine. Also, another thing that I would keep in mind, which is not going to be for everybody, but if you are getting photos, especially like the photo package, I would definitely bring another outfit. I did not. I just brought my hiking clothes, and they were cute. Like they were super cute photos, but sometimes I look back at them and I just think, oh, it probably would have been cuter if I actually like brought a separate outfit to wear in the pod. So if that's for you. Now, just some quick tips and tricks from my personal experience. Number 1, already kind of touched on it, just make sure you have good footwear. The footwear is literally everything. As I said before, I just had some medium-sized hiking shoes that I used before, and those were completely fine. I'm sure you could do it in tennis shoes too, but just make sure that you have a really good sole, because it is a very vigorous activity, and especially if your body's not used to doing it, just making sure that your foot has a lot of support on those Via Ferrata metal rods. And number 2, I would definitely rappel down. I know they have some options to zip line and whatever, but rappelling was so much fun, and it just felt more authentic, and I was really proud of myself. And I never rappelled before in the wild, so that was super cool and super fun for me. And number 3, I'm not gonna go too much into it, but just enjoy the wine responsibly, learn from my mistakes, in the farthest pod, because I had to go from the dining car to the farthest pod, and you have to climb there, so just enjoy the yummy wine responsibly if you're over 21. And number 4, they did have not a videography, a photography package, and I would highly recommend this. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is expensive. It's very small, hand-guided. You get the gear, you get the food, everything is included, but it is expensive. And if you are going to spend that money, the photos are epic. As you can see, it was great. And also, it was really nice not to have to worry about getting photos myself while I was climbing up the mountain. I think it was just nice to just let go, and then when the photographer was there, he'd be like, okay, smile, and I'd be like, you know, so it's nice to kind of get that peace of mind. And you have great footage. They took photos during the climb, during the rappel, in the pods. It was amazing, and the photography was stellar, so good. Another thing that I would recommend, even though it is a glass pod, I definitely still would go up to the deck if you want to stargaze. The windows were like kind of dirty-ish, like you could still see everything, but it does not compare to actually going up on the deck to stargaze. I know it's a little bit of effort because you have to get back in your climbing gear and you're alone, you don't have a guide, but trust me, it's worth it 100%. Go look at those stars because there's no light pollution there, and they're insanely amazing. So let's talk about the terrible part of the video, the price. So, depending on which option you choose, it's around $390 to $410 per night. Ouch on the bank account, but wow, it's so worth it. It's worth every penny. It's the most insane thing you will ever do. If that is not within your budget, that is totally okay. They do day trips as well, where you can just take the zip line and you can climb up, you can go get lunch, you can see it all and then climb back down. Obviously, this is still an amazing thing to do, so definitely check out their prices. Make sure, you know, we're updated on everything, but they definitely do have other options if staying the night is not an option for you. That is all I can think of to tell you for the SkyLodge Adventure Suites. If you have any questions or anything at all, I will answer them to the best of my ability. Just head over to my website, send me an email, DM me on social, comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more bucket list content. And when you do this, please make sure to follow me and just tag me or do something and tag me in all your photos, especially if you get that photo package, because your photos are going to be unreal and I want to see them. I want to cheer you on from the sidelines when you're conquering this off your bucket list, because oh my gosh, they say it's the world's only million-star hotel. And I get what they said now. This is not a 5-star hotel, it's a million-star hotel, because you literally sleep under millions of stars and it's so beautiful, and I think it might actually be my favorite hotel. Wow, there you go.